Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are peeking into the Greenbone Saga, and we are finishing up the plot of Jade War. We're not done talking about it, but we are finishing up the plot. But
this is a chunker.
This is a chunker. Lots going on. Lots of people dying randomly that made me jump almost. So
did you get scared?
I just when one of the deaths happened, I was like, what? I was so shocked. And I was like, I should have known. He was highlighted too much for this not to have happened.
We were a little too comfortable.
Yes, we were too comfortable being like, oh, it's so good. She's opening up the world. And it's like, oh no, she was only doing it to make you sad.
Fonda Lee just tapping her fingers maniacally. Like,
But Laura, before we get into it, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
I watched Nimona on
Did
Netflix.
You love it?
I really liked it. So it's one of the highest rated movies that's come out this year from Netflix, I guess. And I get it because it's really cute. It's very different than the feel of the graphic novel. And I still prefer the graphic novel.
Of course.
I'm all about the original work, but I do think that this one was very good and still held true to the story and a lot of the themes, and it was different. It added in some kind of background-ish info that I think is helpful to the movie format.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. But I thought the animation was really great. I really appreciated how bright and colorful and how the characters looked, which I was a little iffy of, just seeing pictures of how the characters were going to look in the movie, because I was like, that's not quite what I had pictured. I was almost picturing less work being put into it, where they looked more like the graphic novel, and this was so clean and polished and everything. But I got used to it really quickly, and it was just a very cute movie. And I will say, a couple of the characters in the movie came off a little differently. You liked them less for whatever reason, and some of the characters you liked more. I felt like I had a deeper connection with Nimona in this format versus Golden Loin, who I feel like I liked a lot more in the graphic novel. So it's weird how switching the format can, and having some things taken away and other things added, can really affect how you feel about the characters. But overall, I thought it was a really cute movie, and good family movie if you're looking for a family night movie. If anybody wants to watch something with their kids, I think that would be a fun one. And I mean, there is violence in it, but it's not it's cartoon type violence, it's not anything over the top where I'm oh yeah, this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre violence. No, it's not near that level, but it's cartoon violence that you would see maybe in a PG Disney movie type thing.
Right. Well, that's fun.
A really fun movie to watch probably with your family, and I would highly recommend the graphic novel by ND Stevenson and the Netflix movie. So go support them.
Good.
Love all their work, honestly, because Lumberjanes is an excellent series. Go read Lumberjanes too after you read and watched Nimona.
Best friends, or what is it? Friendship power.
Friendship to the max.
Friendship to the max. That's what it is.
That's my favorite new slogan. Friendship to the max.
She really pushed for it on the pod, and I kept saying, Laura, they already have it. They could sue. And she was like, but you don't understand.
I pushed for what on the pod?
For friendship to the max to be our new slogan.
I don't remember that, but I will say it all the time, and I do. The other thing, I don't really have too much to talk about this week. I feel like I don't know why, but I haven't been reading a ton. I guess I've just been I finished up Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. It was a really great book, and obviously I'm in my sci-fi era, so probably biased, but I don't care. And this is a really interesting book. I think that if you are interested in any kind of themes related to terraforming or what happens to our planet in the future, or colonization, anything like that in your science fiction, this is a great book to check out. And I think that it's just different enough from other books of the same nature that it makes it more interesting.
Oh, good.
And
I love that.
so yeah, I'd highly recommend people check it out. It's a long book. I'm going to be getting into the next couple books soon, hopefully, in between podcast reading, because we've got a lot of podcast reading to do. But yeah, I'm really excited to continue on with the series, and it's kind of thrown me for a loop because the way the book ended, I was like, this could be a standalone. And now, like, there's 2 more books to go in the series, and I'm a little interested to see like where the direction of this series is going to go, because you could have just stopped the way that it ended, and because a lot of the conflict was kind of wrapped up. So it's kind of interesting to me that that direction was taken by the author, and I liked it, but at the same time I'm like a little nervous and pretty interested to see what's to come. So I'll keep you all updated on my Children of Time journey. But so far, book 1, 5 out of 5.
So exciting. Are you
Yeah.
like, that's so exciting. I really love that you watched or you read it. And I feel like this one has been like a slow burn read for you. So that's
It
nice.
has. And it was really, so I did a buddy read with a big supporter of the podcast, buddy, that Passett. And this was a reread for Passett, but it was nice for me because I was able to just like read it slowly when I had time in between like reading Jade War and other books that we've been reading for the podcast and other appearances and stuff like that, like other collabs that we're doing. So it was kind of nice to be able, it took me 3 weeks to read the book. So
yeah,
if I would have had time to just dedicate solely to that, I could have read it faster, but it was nice to kind of, I think, read this in small chunks and to sit with some of the things that were happening a little more.
right.
And I think sometimes that's important when you're reading books that have really deep themes and things to think about, to be able to have time to process. And it was nice to have that. And I think especially books of this nature where you're dealing with people leaving a civilization and trying to form a new one, the politics involved in it, it's important to kind of, instead of just like trudging through quickly, to kind of sit with some of these things and be like, well, how would I feel in this situation? Is this something that could happen in the future? Is this something, that we will possibly deal with? And I just thought it was kind of a nice way to go about it, to take my time and to have somebody to talk through some of these things with and ask questions of, especially since he had already read it. And it was just a really fun buddy read. And I'm excited that we're continuing on with the next couple books, and it's going to be great. So yeah, definitely check those out.
That's exciting. Okay, nice.
But that's all I've got. So Hannah, what are you reading and watching?
Well, I'm kind of in the same boat. I have been so busy, like trying to unpack. I'm sitting in a room full of just stacks and stacks and stacks of books. Some are my own, some aren't. And like my partner and I came to visit home this weekend instead of unpacking, like reasonable adults. So I got to see Laura, though. She hung out with my dad and my boyfriend and chit-chatted about automatic lawnmowers.
We talked AI. We talked automowers. We covered all the bases.
My boyfriend is a software engineer, so he's very interested in like ChatGPT and all those things. So I've listened a lot about that conversation, and I was making dinner and I got to hear them chit chat about it in the living room. So that was nice. But because of that, like we started, like my dad and I watched weird TV shows together, i.e. we watched Killing Eve together. And so many people are like, that's a very strange show to pick with your like dad. But sometimes I like to pick those because I feel like he and I have weird tastes that are very similar. Like he was texting me about YellowJackets that I've been watching off and on, that I like watching by myself. So I've barely gotten into. And then he also talked about how he like binged Succession, and he like my dad had a moment where he was watching all of The Sopranos, but he got in on like season 2 or 3, and he like kept watching from the starting point that he was on and then went back and watched the beginning. And so he's very much like, oh, I caught it here, I'll watch it here. So I was like, I feel like he'll like The Righteous Gemstones, which I don't know if you know much about The Righteous Gemstones.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so it's a TV show that's on HBO, or Max as it's called now.
Max, how dare they try to co-opt the Goofy movie's son?
I know. It's really rude that every time you log in, it now says yuck. No, I'm
yeah, how
how
rude. I can't believe Disney's not all over this.
But it's a very weird, like dark comedy. And it's about a televangelist family, like a group of megachurch pastors. And the patriarch is John Goodman.
Okay, why does John Goodman always get in on like these types of movies?
I don't know, but he really loves them, and he's just like, yeah, I'll do that, whatever. And so he is like, his wife has recently passed away, and they're like supposed to be like definitely mega church like royalty. And so he has two sons, and they're like co-pastors with him, and then he has one daughter who is incredibly mad about the fact that like she's treated as a secretary and a teacher because like it's a patriarchal society in this mega church, and so she's not allowed to lead. And so like in the first episode, like they're in China like baptizing a bunch of people in a giant wave pool, and then the waves get turned on accident, and they're sitting there like turn it off, and then they like, you kind of throughout it, like it's very much about how like hypocritical these people can be, how they're like sitting there like saying they're doing this for the Lord, but they're also like awful to their siblings. Like one of the children has an estranged son, and so like they'll be like, yeah, well, at least one of my sons didn't run away. And it's just like, that's not something you joke about. And like the son who's most effective at being a televangelist is also like the one who like does a bunch of bad things that you're not supposed to do when you're religious. And then like you have like the youngest son, who's kind of the most ridiculous. He actually like believes in the work in the church, and then the daughter, who's like obviously is looked down upon for being a woman, she's also a huge hypocrite. So it's very funny to watch this happen. And it's just very weird. Like the episodes are so weird. And there is a huge, like season 1 has a huge conflict with like a reverend of like another place where they're trying to open up a church, but it's played by like Dermot Mulroney. And so it's just like watching these like people
how random
chew the scenery so much. And like there's a whole thing with the oldest son gets blackmailed, and like it's a question over the first couple of episodes, like who's blackmailing him and all this stuff. But like it's weirdly violent and weirdly like, I don't know, it's very strange, but we enjoyed it. It was just a very random show. But I liked it, and I will keep watching it. I kept laughing at it. So is
this a comedy, or
I would say it's
this like a dramedy?
It's called like a comedy crime television series. I would say it's like black comedy, where like lots of bad stuff is happening around them and to them, but like it's still very comedic in the way it happens. And so, and Adam Devine is in this, like he's one of the children. Yeah, he's one of the children. And then Danny McBride is the creator of it, and he is also in it. It's a very, very strange show, but I like it a lot. I don't know. It's like, it's right up my alley, which is like very dark and very like about like being hypocritical, but also not wrong. So you're kind of weirdly in some sense, like rooting for people, but also like hate them so much. So it's been interesting. Like they have one person who like in the first episode, you find out he was a reformed Satanist. And so he has like 666 branded on his chest, and he's like ridiculous. And at one point he like runs into his like old Satanist friends, and they're like, we made a new mix if you want to like rage with us. And he's like, no, I have to go. And they're like, oh, he's such a nerd now. And then they just like start dancing in a back alley to like Lucifer.
Oh my gosh,
a horrible song. And you're just watching these people where it's like, oh, they're absolutely absurd. They have like, they're not dangerous. They're just ridiculous. Like, so it's a very strange show. I like it a lot though. I highly recommend watching it if you're into the kind of stuff I'm into. But I can't say like it's for everyone,
It seems like some of the humor probably is along the lines of like What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes.
But different,
like much more
like
violent.
If you enjoy the humor of What We Do in the Shadows, like probably would enjoy this.
Yes. And there's just like, it's much darker. So
yeah,
it's a different flavor. The wave pool scene killed me in the first episode. Like, it's so funny when they're like, turn it off. And so, but some parts are less funny than others because, you know, whatever. But I do like this show.
Hannah,
So
have
we
you
watched
seen
that.
on, you have TikTok. I only see the reels that are posted from TikTok to Instagram. But there's this creator that talks about like Seventh Heaven episodes.
Yes, where he's like, and every time he makes a joke about like, I guess he had to go see us. Like, he always makes jokes about how the guy who played the preacher in that show is like a sex offender for children.
Yes.
And so he's like, I don't know, he had to go see a school or whatever. It's like, do I hear police sirens?
But
So many.
there's like one that I'm specifically remembering. Like, he talks about these different like plot lines in the episodes of Seventh Heaven. I remember watching that show, and I guess I was just like totally oblivious. I must have been too young to pick up on any of the things happening in that show, I guess. But I think some of these like plot lines that I'm seeing now through this creator, I'm like, what the world? Like, one of the things that he mentioned recently was a plot line where like the preacher's wife, or there was some kind of smoking pot incident, and they're like very anti-smoking pot, and the preacher's wife like comes up to him and is like, I just wanted to let you know I have smoked pot. And he's like, this really dramatic music plays.
Yeah. And it's just like,
they're just silent, and he's like, oh.
And
then
like
there was like another
break.
one that they were talking about recently where there was like a racism plot line because somebody wanted to write some kind of book report on Martin Luther King,
and they wouldn't let him because it wasn't Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah. And they're like, you can't write that book report on him, but or what, maybe not even a book report. You can't write the report on him, blah, 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 blah. And they were like targeting this person and wrote a slur on their car. And but the thing was, like,
they wrote the slur on
a white person's car. And he was like, no, I'm going to leave it on there and drive around with it. And they're like, that's inappropriate. Like, that should be removed.
Also, they have these episodes about like, hey, it's so terrible, don't do that. Da, 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 da. But I also specifically remember there is a plot line where that kid who was like the person who received racism as a white man, he gets like a girl pregnant in her 20s when he's like 17. And it's like, why was that allowed? And everyone's just like, Martin, you got to step up as a parent. And it's like, excuse me, like, he's a child.
I'm bothered by that. I don't like that.
It's so strange. And then there's like a storyline where like he's 17, he's gotten like a 20-year-old pregnant, and then Ruthie, who's like 14, decides that she's in love with him and like becomes obsessed with him. And it's like, why was this? This was a religious show, and it's so strange.
The way that I'm now like being brought back into like some of the memories of this through that creator on TikTok and Instagram, I'm just like, what? Why did I not notice any of this? Why I think I was like totally out of it.
I don't know, Laura. This was a very strange television show.
But the way that this creator like handles these plot lines and with the comedy is very funny to me. And it's reminding me of like a similar type of humor that you're probably seeing in this show, but obviously not as dark.
Yes, it's very similar. So
that's what I was getting at mentioning this.
No, that's fine. So we did that. I don't know. It was a very strange show. Like, remember Matt randomly like got married after like a date with someone, and it was a huge boon because they had to lie to the family and say that they got engaged instead of the fact that they were actually married, because they didn't want to admit that they got married to like have sex right away. What a wild show that was. Like, that's a wild show. Sorry, you just opened so many doors of my Seventh Heaven era. So whatever. Anyway, I also read, I have been so behind because we've only been reading books for podcasts lately.
Yeah.
It's killing us a little bit on the inside, but I can't wait to read like a couple more fun books after finishing this book.
It's not that we don't enjoy reading some of the podcast books. It's just one of those things where it's like when it's homework,
And when you get a
different.
lot of it, like we were really good and scheduled out some stuff, but like a lot of it's coming earlier than normal because it's like, oh,
like
we'll
the
record
recordings
this.
are earlier
Yeah.
than when the things come out.
And
So
so
it's a lot
that'll
of
be
reading
nice.
this summer.
But it's a lot of summer reading. We're in our summer reading children's era. Somebody get us a personal pan pizza.
Yeah, I want to book it pizza. Like
I want to book a pizza so hard.
yeah.
So but I read Monstrous, the newest volume of Monstrous.
Volume 7?
Volume 7. So
yeah, that was a good one.
I paid $1.50 in late fees for this book. And it was really, really good. Like I really loved this installment. I thought it had like, I don't know. I like when they mix up the characters a little bit and you see like, there's a couple reunions in this volume.
Mm-hmm.
There's beautiful artwork in like a dreamscape world. And it's a lot of like characters coming back together in a more political way. Cause I was like, and the last time you guys were trying to murder each other and now you guys just seem kind of chill being in the same location. But I actually like when stuff like that happens because it's like, I don't know, it's adding real world stakes of like, not everyone's just going to try to murder each other every time they see each other. Like if it's the right situation, they're just going to be like, oh, you again. So yeah, I enjoyed Monstrous
so that was
very much.
Devourer is volume 7. That one I'm remembering. So I did that as a buddy read. We read all 6 volumes and then the 7th one came out and we read that one together with Jones in the Books. I did that last fall. And I'm thinking I'm probably going to do another reread of all of them again just to like kind of refresh myself before volume 8 comes out this fall because I think it comes out in November.
Right.
And I already pre-ordered it. But that volume 7, I'm remembering the art was amazing. This was a more colorful addition to the series. And I think for me, this one was just a little bit weaker plot wise because there wasn't as much happening. And with graphic novels that are put out in installments like this, that's going to happen. But still, it's just such a great series that I'm willing to be like, excused, 5 stars.
Right. I really actually liked it because I kind of liked taking a little bit of a breather.
A little break.
Yeah, it was really nice to not have to be like, oh, I have to remember exactly everything that happened. And it actually gave me a little bit more grounding with the characters to see them like intertwine. And I answered a couple questions that I never got in the plot. And so I really enjoyed it because it helped me like do a little bit more scene setting. So I actually really liked that about this book, even though it wasn't like one of the characters is a little bit like down for the count in this one. And so seeing them do a little bit more internal growth was perfect for me on the page, especially with the way that they showed it. I really appreciate
the way that it's portrayed is epic. I really thought that was great.
Right. So I really liked that. But
also the duo of Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda, like give them all the series to cover. They have another series that I need to check out, but I'm not remembering the name at the moment. But I'm sure that one is awesome as well.
I'm sure. So I read that, and then I've been reading some other ones that are coming down the pipeline. So you guys don't get to hear about it quite yet.
Yeah, and that was the thing too. Like I've read some other stuff, but sorry, we're not gonna talk about it here.
Oopsies. Hope you guys enjoy the podcast content to come.
Enjoy these little teasers. That means you need to keep listening and pay attention to our social media. Follow us at ourpod.
Check on ourpod.com where we post what we'll be doing for the next couple weeks. AKA one of the books we've been reading is Viviana Valentine Goes Up the River because it's already posted. Because it's already posted up there. So you
okay. Well, never mind. It's not a major hint then. That's a given.
Because it's the next bonus. So we do have to like eventually spoil all the bonuses because it's not like we could be like, oh, guess what? But also make sure you're voting on our indie mission, which is up right now and helps highlight fresh new indie authors and gets their work out, and make sure you're voting and buying their books. I'll talk about that more at the end, but just right now, before you get into this, and then you shut us off
in our brains
because you're like, oh, they're to the end where they just ask to rate, review, and subscribe. It's like, well, you should be listening to that if you haven't done it yet. Thank you.
Right. And also there are people that cut out halfway through because they haven't read Jade War this far. So it is important to mention this right now. Check out Indie Mission, follow us. So
it is important. Follow us on Our Pod on all the platforms. Go to ourpod.com.
All the platforms, because there's so many platforms to
There's
decide
so
from
many
now.
platforms right now. We're just waiting for
Overwhelmed
some of
with
them
all
to
the
get.
platforms.
Yes.
Like, can we decide which ones we want and which ones we don't? I saw
want
somebody say
3.
something like, exactly, like 3 is enough. Like, I saw somebody say something like, oh, well, I finally got on this one. And somebody commented on it, and was like, that one's done.
No, thank you.
They just got on there. Oh,
that's amazing. I love that so much. Okay, well, shall we dive in to the rest of the Jade War plot?
yes. Let's finish the book.
Let's do this. So we break in on Skinny Reams, a character who I forgot existed, honestly, because what was his purpose? And then it turns out he has a great purpose.
He was mentioned before,
murder.
like all these dealings and everything.
He was one of the people that Boss Cromner was like, I trust this guy. And in this section, it's
he's
like,
totally trustworthy. He's never going to stab me in the back.
Remember Boss Cromner? He does not trust him, and he's sending someone to murder him. So Skinny Reams is getting Jade delivered. We find out his load is a few pounds heavier so that he gets to sweeten the deal for him. And apparently, like, Boss Cromner found out about that and put a hit on him, killing a few of his men, but he's able to escape by jumping into the river. Wen is taking her children to the park. We hear about their day, how Nico was pestering his little brother and fighting. And Mike Tar is like, hey, Nico, you need to be careful with your little brother and take care of him. Remember that Hilo murdered for your father? And it's like, this kid is 4. Could we be a little bit like more kid gloves with him? And like, obviously he's done
the way that they treat Nico, I think, is a little too much pressure for a child, because they very much are like, you owe us because we pulled you out of a bad situation, and you have to take care of your little brother because we are family and you have all this responsibility because your dad was important. It's like, okay, that's a lot.
And like, I don't know, it just feels very like, you should be happy. This kid has like heard it so many times. He's like, yeah, I know you murdered someone for my father. And it's like, a kid should not be that chill about that. Leave him be for a little bit. But they don't, because they can't help themselves. So she's thinking about the fact that like Hilo is mostly a good father, but there are times when he isn't as supportive and lets the clan take over his life. And she's like, well, this is what I signed up for, but it would be nice sometimes to like have a break or have him be here when he says he'll be here. And she's also contemplating the fact that she's done having children because she gave Hilo 2, and he also has Nico.
She's like, you've got your legacy. And I want to get back to work. Like, I'm
Jade legacy. But she's gonna convince Hilo's mother to come live with them to help her take care of the kids and go back to work. She misses the work and always feels at her best when she's helping Hilo before bed. So she is someone who like recognizes she's a good mom but needs work, which I like seeing representation for. She also thinks about how safe she feels to be in the park, where she knows like others won't attack her. They come here all the time. And then we see Hilo's sous come up, and Ken pops out, showing that Hilo sent him instead of picking up the kids like he promised. And she's like, okay, I guess I got to cart the kids towards him. And all of a sudden, this is my shock moment. The car just explodes.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like Fonda Lee does such an effective job. Like, because Ken is killed immediately in the explosion. And like
they're like, there's no way we're going to find remains.
I felt Wen's reaction because she like freezes for a second and then she like looks around, and you could tell like the explosion has happened. Everyone's like frozen.
She's like shielding the kids, and she's like doesn't know what to do. She's like, that's my brother. Holy crap. What the heck?
This was almost a movie moment that I could just see it so perfectly in my head, where she like grabs the kid's hands and she's like, Nico, grab onto your brother. We're going to walk now. Don't look back now. Focus on me. We're walking away. And she's like walking confidently, so like no one stops her. And she like takes them to an area.
It's a moment where she's like, I don't know if I'm safe right now.
She's like, he was just attacked. He was attacked coming to the park. They could be after my children. My children could have been in there. And so she goes to a no peak store, and she asks them for the phone, like saying who she is. And she calls home. No one's there. She calls the weatherman.
She's like, we need to be in the back. We need to be like out of sight. Somebody just attacked us.
And so she like calls the weatherman's office, and she's like, you need to contact Hilo and Shay and tell them to get here immediately. So it cuts over to Hilo coming in. He's freaked out because she and the kids could have died. And he's like never had his family so close to being murdered before. And
it's kind of one of those things where I think Hilo almost kind of considers himself like too confident, where he's like, it'll never happen to me. I'm Hilo. And it's like, but it could happen to you.
And this section is very much about how like Hilo made certain decisions to have a specific type of life that he wanted. And he's finding out that like other people have their own ideas and they may not drive with his, and he like almost can't handle it. So it's, I think that this is kind of the first moment of that, where he's like, my family was supposed to be safe because Aiese, and my family is supposed to be safe because I have Gwen, and my family is supposed to be doing this. And like, it's the first time that like someone's gotten through the cracks.
Things are jeopardized, and he feels uncomfortable with that because he's always had a sense of security about like, oh, people won't come for a stone eye because people won't come for children because people won't. And you feel that as a reader too, where you're like, oh. And I think it also kind of like in this section especially, I think it kind of highlights like how I've felt that Hilo has felt towards Wen all along, where I think you've mentioned before, where you're like, I feel like he doesn't give her enough credit and she wants to do things and he's really holding her back. And I can see that. But at the same time, I also think this section as a whole does a great job of showing how Hilo, above all, just wants to have something that is not connected to Jade. And that's Wen and his children. He doesn't really want them to be connected to Jade.
Yeah. And so he like is freaking out, and Wen breaks down sobbing, and the boys are on Hilo, and he sends her home with his fist to Shay, but Tar doesn't know yet. Like they're all like, does Tar know? And they're like, no. And everyone's freaking out because they know Tar won't take it well, because his brother's everything to him. Wen makes
they're inseparable, and like Hilo was like the missing piece to their whole connection and everything. And so they're like, people were worried about Hilo's reaction, but everyone's also worried about Tar because they're just like, what is going to happen when he finds out about this?
And so Wen makes Hilo promise her that he will find the people who did this and kill them. Shay is rushing home. They all know that this had to have happened on their property because the Duchess went from the compound to the park. So there was absolutely no opportunity.
Somebody got in and planted it.
So it was
Time
also
bomb.
And it was also meant for Hilo. And then in this section, they're like, well, we had to talk to the poor housekeeper, and I don't think she was in on it, but we have to question her. And it's like, oh, that does suck to like have this person in your family for years and still not be able to trust them. And like, it must suck for the housekeeper to be like, I worked for you for so long and you have to ask me about this. Like, it sucks on both sides. You
get it, but it's still, it does kind of have that moment where you're like, oh, but
I know
you can't trust me.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing, is like they do know that they can't trust anyone, but at the same time they burn bridges sometimes because they don't trust anyone. They treat people in a certain way where they like end up getting resentful. And I don't know if that happens with the housekeeper, but I could see it happening in the future. And then Shay is assuming it's Maarta, and then someone tells her that there is a man at the gate taking responsibility, and oh, how the relationships we didn't care about come around to bite you in the butt because we find out that it was Maarta. The
meeting that he had previously where they were trying to blackmail him. It
came full circle. And the meeting he asked Shay for at the wedding with him and Hilo had, like, it was an actual meeting that took place, but because he was blackmailed, he took in 2 fake college interns to see the pillar, and like no one questioned it because it was Morrow, and no one questioned it because it was like all about like political stuff. And he admits that he had been being blackmailed by Sordayo, Zapuño's man. He was sending him photos of his half sisters and their children, being like, if you do not help us, and if you tell anyone, we will kill them. And she's like, why didn't you tell me? I'm incredibly powerful and influential. And this section, I did feel like, Morrow, are you kidding me? Because he does pretty much blame her. He's like, well, if you had trusted me, I would have trusted you. And it's like, that's understandable, but also it's a cop out because it's like,
exactly. It's so complicated. And this is where like all of the frustrations I think that we have kind of come to a head, where they're all like put out here, honestly. Right. And in this section, like in the last section, I was getting a little frustrated with some of the things that were happening. But in this section, I'm like, wow, I really trust Fonda Lee to bring things full circle, and that every little interaction literally has a deeper meaning.
Right. And I did think it was fair when he was like, look, No Peak doesn't care about some Shotarian women across the country or across the world.
And that's fair.
I couldn't trust No Peak to protect them, and I wasn't going to put them at risk. And I understood that of this section, but he also has these moments where he's like, and Shay, you decided not to make me a part of your family, so I had to go with my family. And it's like, that's unfair. Like, you decided to make it, you have made a decision about protecting your family, but saying like, if only you had trusted me, then we wouldn't be here. I think that that also isn't accurate. Like,
it makes the relationship so conditional.
Yeah.
And I don't like it, but I can also understand the resentment and the feeling of hopelessness that Morrow has, and how he literally was just like, I have no option but to do this because Shay doesn't support me or trust me in this way. And even though she would offer to help, it's not the kind of help that I would need.
Right. So she does like ask him, like, why didn't you have the Baruchans help you escape? And he's like, I don't think I could have run from the clan, honestly. I think they would have found me. So I decided to like come and meet you in person. And he's like, I never thought I would die like this. I never thought I would die by blade. I'm a coward. And like, I kept myself away from this. So like, could you kill me and could you make it quick?
Because, well, the other thing too, because he's like, if Hilo or Tar get to me, it's going to be way worse. And Shay knows that as well.
Right.
And also June, the new Horn, June, who is the former First Fist, is standing right there. And Shay's like, look, you have to trust me. We're working together now. Just trust me in this. And so she ends up killing Morrow basically to spare him being tortured.
Yeah, she has like a moment where she starts freaking out because she understands what he's asking her, and like a lot runs through her brain where she was like, I was too weak to kill Doru. I can't do this. And she's like, is Hilo coming? And they're like, yeah, he's on his way to Tar. And she's like, oh my gosh, this cannot happen. Like, this is going to be so bloody. And I don't think Morrow deserves that. And Morrow is like, hey, you're not a coward like I am. Like, because he knew about Doru. And so she like all of a sudden remembers all the good times with Morrow, and she ends up killing him using the channeling. And she walks back to the house, and all of the memories with him come sweeping back, and she starts sobbing. And in this moment, I did wish, like, I was like, funnily, you know what would have been more effective if we hadn't had like one meeting time with them and we had actually gotten to hear about this before now, where it's like Morrow and I sit and talk all night, and Morrow, and like, I'm late to a meeting because I'm so happy with Morrow, because it feels like I
got a little of that at the beginning, but not a ton. It was just
not
like
a ton.
A couple mentions where it was like they would spend the night together and like talk all night, and then they would go out for dinner, breakfast, and talk.
I just didn't feel like we saw it enough for this part to like become very
the thing was like the times that we were hearing about it, it was also the times that we were hearing about like, oh, Woon is in love with Shay as well. And so I feel like it was pulled back a little from us, where it was like we're kind of getting annoyed on both ends from like her weird relationship with Morrow, and then we're getting this weird relationship with Woon. And it's like it kind of took a little of the focus off of the Morrow relationship, and so then when we're at this point, we're like, oh, they did have that, okay.
Yeah, I was just like, because both of us were like, yeah, I don't think she loves him. It doesn't feel like she does. And then in this section, it's like, oh no, she definitely did. And I was like, well, then we should have seen more. But it does say that in this moment, I loved this phrase as like, we know Shay is very religious. It says she feels like she's in an eternal penitence. And I was like, oh, that's a wonderful phrase. After this, a week goes by, and Shay is messy, depressy right now. She isn't leaving the house or eating. Hilo is devastated. And like at the funeral, she could feel Tar's energy, like blaming Shay for like giving Morrow
he wanted that chance.
Like he wanted a chance to, he wanted to punish Morrow, and she didn't punish Morrow.
Right.
It's
they feel that he got an easy out, and so now her relationship is a little bit more fractured with him now too. Shay's constantly kind of in a state where she has to make really difficult decisions that affect her relationships with other high-ranking members of the clan, which is difficult for her.
And it sucks because it's also like she has to do this because Hilo has made the clan so much more militaristic, where like a lot of times a lot of people would have respect for her having to step in like that. And instead people are just resentful of her. So that sucks. And it's also noted that she didn't have this bad of a reaction for Lan or her grandfather. And the fact that she can't work, she was always able to return to work, but she keeps reliving everything. And she has a hatred for Zapunyo that runs super deep, and she just can't get out of this. And she also hates that she lost Ken, because they were also family. Like, it talks about how much of a relationship they had. And it's like, actually, we saw more of her and Ken's relationship. Like, everyone noticed it. And most people just came in to be like, hey, you don't really love Maro, do you? Like, I do feel it was like, oh, we got all these beautiful moments between her and Ken, and like one with Maro. So, however, like, Wen comes in, and Wen is like, my brother's gone and everything is worse, but like, Hilo needs you. You need to get out of this. And Shay pushes back and she's like, I get to be sad. And she's like, no, like, right now Hilo needs his family and you're his family. So you need to buck it up. And she's like, you just feel personally responsible for this death. And that's why you're feeling so bad about yourself. And like, it's not a good enough reason for you to shut out the world. And Shay is kind of like, I feel bad, because Shay is constantly like putting trauma on Wen and being like, don't you hate me now? And Wen is like, I obviously do not. She's like, well, don't you blame me for Ken's death and like letting Maro in to our lives? And Wen is like, no, I blame our enemies. They're the ones who use our relationships against us. It is not your fault. And so she knows that Shay didn't cause Ken's death. And she's like, you just need to get back to work, because a Barukan doesn't believe in Aiesho. And so now we're in more danger than ever. They were able to touch us so quickly, and Tara can barely function. So Wen needs to be put to work right now. Wen needs to step up as well. And so she's like, so I need to go back to work, so you need to go back to work. And Shay is like, I'll try. And she's like, okay, well, you're coming to dinner tonight, because I already told your nephews you are. So Wen is powerful.
Wen has quickly become my favorite character.
I know. Same. Like, she's the most complicated. Like, I feel like she's everything I wanted Shay to be when I first met Shay. And honestly, like,
Shay is a character I like a lot too, though. But there's more to be frustrated with Shay. Yeah. But Wen has become such a dynamic character, and the way that she represents so many different things for women in this book is, I think, as two women reading this, I think that's why we connect with her, right? Because it's just such a powerful character for women to read.
And then we got on over to our actual favorite character of the podcast, Laura. How dare you forget? Because it's Barrow.
I hate that guy. I knew he didn't die, because
he didn't die. We didn't see him die. He died off screen, so there was no way
There's no way that a-hole died.
But Barrow is not dead. We found out that he would have died if Moot hadn't given him so much sedative before putting in the overdose, because his metabolism
damn it,
slowed.
Moot, what is wrong with you? Do a little research, you freaking idiot.
He's put in so much shine. Like, you have so much shine, like triple dose.
Dose. His tolerance to shine is like up to his eyeballs. Like, he needs so he's so mad. And we'll get to the part later, but he's mad over this.
He's living off of what he has left. He can't really go after Moot because he has no green left. He has no shine. He had to like detox pretty much. So he's like, I guess I have to kill myself now. I'm sorry. Trigger warnings for suicidality in this next section, because he kind of just starts running his mouth. So just so you know, he decides to go to the double to test out how lucky he is, because he does recognize he must have luck on his side, because he should have died like 8 million times. He starts losing, and he tells the dealer that once he loses all his money, he will throw himself off a roof or a bridge. He's drinking a ton. The guy tries to convince him to just cut his losses, go back home. There's more to live for. And then we see him like flag something down, but he like isn't paying attention. And then this other man comes up, and it's Aiton, the man who Hilo earlier in the book like gave the Hoji distillery to after he had lost both of his arms to work with his father-in-law.
Which I thought this was an interesting callback.
I know. I was very interested to see. This is why I do trust Fonda, because she has like these characters that like interweave. Although at one point, Aiton is like, I guess I have to call Lot. And I'm like, are there any more fists or fingers than like these 5 guys hanging out all the time? Like, well, we just have so many interactions with a very specific group of people, but that's a very small side note.
It is a thing where it just made me laugh. Like, it is a thing where it's just like, if their clan is so huge, why are we only seeing like these 5 people?
And like they're always like, Hilo is so good with all the men, but also he only trusts 6 of them. Like,
Yeah,
he's
got such a huge group of people who love him, but it's mostly just June and Lot in the mics. Like,
who else is he hanging? He's sitting there with these 5 guys, and he's like, I just have so many friends, and he's just seeing double because he's had too much to drink that night. Like, I don't understand.
And also, like, if you're thinking about this too, it's like Lot is literally someone where I'm like a little nervous. Like, we had a little bit of trouble with him earlier on, so hopefully this is
I honestly think in the next book Lot is going to be boyfriend. Like, he's going to be
yeah, like the staring
going to be boyfriend
and all that,
like staring at him strangely, and they had fights together, and like he's a bad boy, and like obviously Andon likes the most messed up men along with Shay. Like, they could just have a club of like, here are our terrible boyfriends, and like why they weren't good enough for us. I also thought
this because like in the first book it's all this like longing gazes at Lot and all. It's like, yeah, that's gonna happen.
He thought Lot was hot, but he thought he was the worst, and I'm like, oh, so he's going to be boyfriend. Like, that's just how this is going to work.
Enemies to lovers, like, of course. Sure.
That's our call. If we're wrong, so we like romance novels, okay? But anyway, back to Hilo's friend number 5. Aiesen is taking Barrow down into the basement using his service monkey, which I do like the way that he effectively uses a service monkey. And he lets Barrow sober up, and he says once he's sober, they will let him go with his losses. Barrow starts running his mouth about the fact that he was working with the Uilans. He was a jade thief and a smuggler, and so he should be allowed to die because Greenbone shouldn't care about him. And it's like, oh, but you didn't mention Lon, so like obviously you do have some self-preservation. But Aiton is like, let me call best friend number 3 Lot and tell him all about this. I guess he would be best friend number 4. But anyway, Hilo goes and he meets Barrow. There are a million times in this section where I was dying laughing because he just keeps going like, where have I seen him before? Like, it's said 2 times too many. I was like, I need to hear it twice, and that's good enough. But like, it's 4 or 5.
This section just pissed me off because it was just like, we know we're getting this callback and it's going to be revealed, but Barrow still sneaks his dirty little ass out of this.
His icky little ass. His icky little ass. So
I hate this character so much, and it's just like, damn it, he gets off the hook again, and it's like, it's right here for you, Hilo. It's right here. Avenge Land. You know what doesn't happen?
Most frustrating about Barrow, though, is a lot of times he's not wrong. Like, he'll be like, I want a revolution for the poor people. And it's like, but you're also a psychopath. So just because you're right doesn't mean you're not a psychopath. And I don't. Where he's like,
Jade literally like puts
ruined
people.
My life.
Yeah, he's like, Jade has ruined my life, and it is oppressive to people, and I don't like it, and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, fair enough, but also you suck so bad.
Yes. So it's so bad. And so then Barrow tells him, and that's the thing, is like, Barrow's like, hey, these rat houses are bad. These new greens have no rules. And it's like, okay, but also that was you. So like, so he's just anti anyone who's ever wronged him. And he's learned nothing about the consequences of his own actions. He's just like, hey, Hilo, let me tell you where you can find all of these people. Then at the end, Hilo is like, oh, I know. You're the kid that Lan let go. And I said you were going to be obsessed with green, and you were. But like, I said I'd kill you if I ever ran into you. And I guess I have to let you live now. And it's like, oh, God, that sucks to hear.
Oh, my gosh.
Killed your brother.
I could have screamed reading that. I know. I could have screamed.
So we find out that I condemned the car bombing of like Hilo, and she offered assistance. So the No Peak clan has to go to her and be like, hey, could we clean out all the rat houses with all the new greens in the mountain territory? And they're like, sure, but we get to reap the rewards. We get what you find there. And so once this happened, Sordayo, they like, Hilo goes after all the rat houses, and Sordayo is found 2 days later trying to flee because he knew that once the mountain opened up their territory, there was no saving him. They end up letting Tar torture him, and Hilo asks who gave the order, the mountain or Zapuño, and he said it was Zapuño with the encouragement of the mountain. And so he kills him and tells Tar to ship
that.
Hilo kills him and tells Tar to ship the body back to the family. Tar is super pissed that Sordayo gets that kind of respect. And Hilo's like, he was just given orders. We're not going to punish him because like that's a good way to make more enemies. We're in this for the long game. Hilo is back on the streets in Janloon. He has a new car and everyone is loving it up because he's like eclipsed Maarta in the press because no one likes the goons of the new green. And they're also trying to figure out how to get to Zapunyo inside doors of No Peak.
Hilo has also gotten to a point now where he's letting his anger like kind of eclipse, and he is just a little bit reckless that he's bought a new car that stands out more, and he's kind of made himself more public, and it's like, Hilo, reel it in.
Well, and he's like telling Tar what to do, but he's also not listening to his own
he's getting more involved too, where it's like, this is not your place as pillar.
Well, because Zapunyo is on like different diplomatic soil, so they can't swarm the compound like they'd like. And they were like, well, we could just kill him. We don't care about like fake policemen. And they're like, well, Shay's like, it wouldn't look good to the Aspenians because like we're trying to get out of the war and say we're not going to give them greenbone soldiers because we live by a code that we don't go after people who don't wear green. And Zapunyo does not wear green, so we can't go after them. And Tar is like, you just love the Aspenians. You're so sympathetic, and we don't care what they think. We can go after them.
No, she's being diplomatic because you need to have allies, and they are some of your allies, and this is a really complicated situation.
Well, and they don't
not just in Kikan.
They don't want Greenbones to like have to go into war. They're like, no, we don't believe in that. So like, why would we do this and ruin all? Like, let's kill him, but let's do it in a way that we don't have to offer up anything. And so
because Shay has worked really hard to make a lot of progress for them, especially in Aspenia, and if they make a wrong move, it will set all of that back.
Right. And so she kind of ignores Tar in this moment, and she just looks at Hilo and she's like, dude. And he's like, yeah, I agree with Shay. He tells Tar that he is being nonsensical, and wanting to go on a suicide mission like this would mean he could never face Ken in the afterlife. But also then he acts rash. He goes straight to the Venn family and he's like, I thought you were supposed to take down the mountain. And the guy's like, yeah, it takes time. Like for 3 years, I've been doing this, this, and this. And he's like, no, you have to do it the next year. I'm not playing.
I'm giving you a year. Make a move. You're being a coward.
And so it's like 1 step forward with being diplomatic and 2 steps back. So then we cut on over to Wen, who's going through customs with fake jade into Aspenia. She's like, oh yeah, this is just like fake jade. Lots of people wear it. We sell it. It's great. And she's actually
she doesn't have an aura.
She doesn't have an aura, so they trust her. And she's actually wearing the real jade on her body. But no one suspects an Stone Eye because she's Kekanese. They're just like, oh, if she were wearing the real stuff, we'd feel an aura. Andon picks her up, and she is super judgy about him not being a green, but she does like that he came to Aspenia, is now helping the family. So she is very much like, you must do things for the family and you must self-sacrifice, but like, as long as you figure it out, I'll forgive you. She does tell him that Hilo doesn't know about her work, and she's like, he wouldn't approve. He thinks you're green. He thinks like he's very binary. You're green bone or you're not. And he is like, yeah, he won't even let me go back into Janloon unless I wear green. And she's like, that's not exactly the reason. They want you to take advantage in life. They want you to be safe. And she's like, but also like Hilo infantilizes non-green bones, so like this keeps you safe until he can figure out what to do with you. And it's like, how awful must it be for you to recognize that your husband infantilizes you? Like, that's gotta suck.
But at the same time, I and this is me being maybe too sympathetic of Hilo, because I feel like from her standpoint, she's like, he treats me like an infant, but at the same time, I really am falling back on the whole, he cares so much about her that he just doesn't want her involved. And I get it from both perspectives. Wen's not wrong, but she's also partially perceiving this a little differently. Like the way that you perceive something like this happening to you is not always 100% correct.
That's fair.
I feel like Hilo needs a little more credit in how he is treating people, and like maybe from Andon's perspective it's different because he has just this fury towards him. But in terms of Wen, it's just different in my mind because he just wants to keep her safe. He doesn't want her to be a target and doesn't want her to be involved with the jade.
I don't know if I fully agree with that, because again, I always fall back on the like, Hilo is very accepting unless the world is working against him. And then like all of his biases come out in the worst way. So he can say like, oh, I don't think Stone Eye is unlucky. I don't think this. I don't think this.
Sure.
But then like if Wen goes against him, I'm afraid to see what happens in the next book and see how much he resents her in the next book, because she is a full-fledged person. And in his mind, it's like, no, you are this person for me. And he doesn't seem to understand
that's
the
very
intricacies of being a
fair.
full-fledged person, you know? So I think he has a limit to his acceptance. And that's where I get frustrated with Hilo, where he's like, oh, I'm very loving and I'm very welcoming until it doesn't work to my benefit. And then I hate everything, you know? And that's where he like,
Yeah.
he tries to remove Shay. He does not forgive Shay by the end of this book. It's a very
No.
bittersweet moment that we leave them on.
Yeah, we'll get there. It gets
But
it
like
gets bad.
it's not good. It's not good. And that's the thing, is like he goes towards violence and he goes towards trying to make the world work for him. And that's where I don't feel sympathetic to him.
He's literally just so possessed by his own anger that he's unable to make clear decisions a lot of the time.
Yeah. And he's controlling. He is a very controlling person. And I think that's where I get frustrated with him. So Anda does ask Wen in this moment to like talk to Hilo on his behalf. But she's like, aren't you enjoying Espenia a lot more? Like, aren't you seeing someone? And he's kind of like, yeah, you know, it is better, but I would like to go home. Like, it is my home. And she says she gets it. She likes being useful as well. So like they make and so they're kind of like, they're at a good moment. And then they do make a trade-off for green with Ron Toro. And she hands off the real and the fake to like dispense of. So we do learn more about Annan's time in in Espenia, sorry. He graduated with his associate and now he's working for the weatherman's office. Like Shay made it like, Hami, you can hire whoever you want and Andon. So he has made sure he's super helpful, though. He does errands for Hami and he uses the ducks for their connections, and Hami loves that. But he also helps with more green items, like getting rid of the two grapists from the last section. He has his own studio apartment where Corey visits, and they're in a budding relationship. Corey admits that he likes him and he has stopped sleeping around with other people. He asks Corey if he would ever come to KCON with him, and Corey's like, sure, whatever, and doesn't seem to realize how much of a culture shock that would be for him, and like how he wouldn't be an effective green, and like it would be different. And Andon asks what his parents would think, and Corey like rolls his eyes and he's like, why does it always come back to my parents? And it's like, maybe because Andons are dead and like he has a lot of respect for like lots of
it just really
things.
shows the way that their cultures are so different despite having similar backgrounds. But it's definitely like, I love to think about the way that, like, in my mind, it's comparable to immigrants to the United States, and how, like, first generation immigrants to the United States, their children will be such a different upbringing compared to, like, how they were raised in their country. And it's because they have like all these different experiences with, like, at school or wherever, you know, dealing with other American kids, you know, that grew up here. And I think it's so interesting that we're getting these perspectives. This is the most interesting part of Andon and Corey's story, because you see this almost like a foil of how they think about their lives and their culture.
Well, it's very interesting because you see like how supportive the families can be in a different way and how each family does fail the child in certain ways. It's very interesting. So, but right after the KCON New Year, Hilo calls Andon and says he needs help killing a man. We find out that Zapuño is coming to Espenia and they are setting up a sting operation. Andon asks Doc for help to kill Zapuño, explaining the history. He says he needs Ron Toro and a few other members. And Doc's like, listen, dude, I get it. Like, I get why you guys would want to kill him. But like, I don't put my people in danger unless it's necessary in Espenia to keep us safe. Zapuño, like, I totally get it.
And he kind of doesn't really understand. He's like, here's the thing, this happened to your family and I guess we are connected, but still I don't really owe them.
Yeah, he's like, I don't owe your family this. Like, I have to keep my people safe. My people come first.
They're my priority.
Yeah, and like the Jade trade doesn't negatively affect us enough to step in this way. And he's like, I can't allow it right now. I can't bring heat on us without a reason, and we have to keep to our own. And Andon kind of knew that would be the answer and told Hilo so, but he does ask about Ron Toro again. And he says like the No Peak clan will definitely move them out of Espania once it's done, anywhere they like. And Doc is like, look, if it's that important to you, you wear the jade. And Andon is like, that's unreasonable. I haven't worn jade in years. I couldn't handle it. And like,
Well,
you didn't ask, but like I have killed for the clan before, and I promise not to wear jade after that because like I just can't handle it.
and maybe it's just me like hearing this so many times, but when he's asked this again, I got a little angry where I was just like, can no one respect that Andon feels uncomfortable with Jade and is worried about being bloodthirsty? And it's just like, and I get it that he hasn't had like this conversation with this particular character, so maybe it's just me knowing this background info, because I know like if you're dealing with something that's traumatic and maybe you're keeping it somewhat private, to like have somebody continually, or have anyone like continually bring this up and have to explain yourself and the reasons why you feel this way is so much. And that got a little frustrating to me, that it's like, why do people keep questioning this? Why can't we let it go?
This one made a little bit more sense to me than everyone else. Like, and I also think because like we do find out in this section, like people do not understand the itches as much in this country. Like he's like, oh, well, like we didn't know that much, but we also still don't know that much. So like to him hearing like, and had like a mother who had a proclivity for the itches, like you understand it, but you also don't, where it's like, it's kind of like, if you hear about alcoholism, like you're like, oh, well, you grew up in an alcoholic household, but like, or like, but if you didn't drink and your parents didn't drink, what's the big deal kind of thing. So I do see that, but like, it does suck that Andon has to explain himself at every juncture. But Doc is like, well, we all have a history. And then we smash cut to Doc's history. He came to Espenia poor. Lots of people did, but a few of them had jade. It was just very hard to like keep it on you, and you had to keep it secret. He worked for a man who was kind and gave him a chance and work even though he didn't have to. But then the man like likely had the itches. He understands that now, but they didn't see the signs back then, and not enough people knew about it. And the man also had a lot of trauma when it came to his family, and they had been deeply harmed by the Shatarians. So one night he got into a screaming match with a Shatarian man and he killed him. And Doc knew that his boss would likely kill Doc for witnessing it, so he convinced him that he would help him hide the body. Police started investigating, but no one trusted the police back then, so they weren't telling. But somehow Ron Toro started being rumored to be involved, and he had to go into hiding. And Doc's boss, who killed the Shatarian, was going to turn Ron in so he could just like wash his hands of it and then pretty much kill Doc. And so Doc and Ron killed the man and hid him away. Everyone fell into line because they knew what was going on, and they turned the man in for his involvement with the killing. And the police found evidence against him, and they thought he fled, so no one ever came looking for him. After this, Doc became a person people came to with problems because he seemed to understand the old world and the new world, and he would help them. And but he never forgot that the man he killed had helped him once. And so he said he did bring like shame upon himself in front of the gods and like all this stuff. And so he says he will help Andon, but only if Andon gives up Corey. He tells Andon about how when he's like, I know you want to return to Kekon, and Corey's weak-willed. He's not going to be a successful Greenbone, but he could be successful here. We're setting him up successfully here. He's like, we wanted a son so badly, and we never got him because I was being punished for killing that man so long ago. And he's like, Corey has to take on my legacy. Corey has to have children. Andon is like, well, you told me earlier that I was a man of my word. So can I have more time? He's like, I wouldn't trust you if you didn't. And so he says he appreciates that. He goes, and he does end up breaking up with Corey that night. And Corey's pissed because he knows it's about clan stuff. And we get to the third interlude. It talks about a group of illusions who went to Kekon and found Abuke, the Aboriginal people who had jade hanging as ceremonial items. They traded with them, but the illusions decided right before they like fixed their ship and went back home to take more. They killed all the Abuke and took all their jade. But then when they were traveling across the sea, there were mutinies, killings, and people falling ill, obviously to the itches or too much jade. The sailors who were left threw it all overboard and returned to their homeland, saying it was a cursed land. After the Shatarian occupation, one of the generals bad-talked Kekon, and he was ambushed and killed by Now Swenzen, aka the Horn of the Mountain. So we cut into Chancellor Son showering, walking out, and seeing Now Swen sitting there. He's like, well, I'm about to die. I can't call security. This man would only be here to kill me. And so Now asks Son, how he will vote for the refugee bill, and he kind of hedges his bets, and he's like, I have to look, and I'm like, there are good people on both sides. He tries to remind now that like he will be violating like all political acceptance, and Aiese, if he kills him, Swen does not care. He says he can make it look like a mistake because he knows about Son's heart problems, and he kills him.
Channels into him,
into his heart. It's and then we go to like a lot on getting fake credentials for Andon to go interview Zapunyo as Kekanese, like, or a Kekanese Espinian reporter who is like kind to Uiwan and Espinia and like against Keikon.
He's a sympathizer.
Yeah. He will be there with Ron Toro, and then they will have to flee, which means Andon gets to go back home. He's reaching out to Corey to like explain things a little bit, but Corey won't do anything or won't answer his letters. And like people were like, hey, don't tell anyone anything. And he's like writing these letters to Corey, and I'm like, this is gonna bite you in the butt, but it ends up not. So that was good. Yeah. But he does like tell Corey, like, you were very important to me. You were my first everything. Like, thank you so much for what you gave me. And he is accepting that he may die after this. We cut on over to Ven Haku at a nightclub where he is planning to take on down Maarta with his buddies, and like based on what his daddy has told him, some of his buddies haven't showed up.
Reading this, you're like, what an idiot you are that you plan
idiot,
because he's almost just like at a nightclub, like, guys, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna all get together and we gotta kill her. And it's like, what is wrong with you? Why do that there, you worst?
And like, it's also like, No Peak is totally on our side about this, guys. Yeah. Like, he's an idiot. And so now
he's
comes
the drunk rich bro that's at the bar.
Now comes in and he's like, I'm here to party. I mean, I'm here to kill you. And he says that Haku has been hiding from him because of his perception abilities. He kills him, and he only lets 2 of Haku's men live, who told him the truth that they will now serve the pillar. The next day, Ven's company is taken over 51% by a non-Kekanese person who's like agreed to like respect the mountain, and 49% by other mountain people, including the Ua family. She tells him she knows of his plan, and his son's head is in the box they brought with them. And she's like, out of respect for you, I won't open it. He asks for leniency on his family, and she's like, all of your sons will be dead. Your daughters and wife can flee to Keikon, which like, honestly, geez, Maarta, like you're very much like women power, and then you just reinforce all the crap you hate and all the reasons you had to murder a bunch of people. Like his daughters can't want to avenge him. Whatever. Hilo is taking care of the boys while Wen is in Espinia, foreshadowing. I called exactly what would happen the minute I found out that Wen was in Espinia. I was because Zapunyo is landing in Espinia right now. He finds out that the Vens have been murdered, that the Iwas have been given part of the Ven business, and that Ait has taken in the Coben boy, implicating that he will be her heir. He's like losing it on this, and Nico comes in, and Hilo tries to brush him off, and he's like, no, something happened. And we find out that Rue swallowed Jade. I was so scared in this moment. I was
not. I totally called this.
Okay, that's good.
This was the part that I totally called.
I thought he was gonna die. Because I was like, oh, he's like, Hilo's going to like lose his son, you know, but
instead he loses his Jade legacy.
Yes, he does. His Jade legacy. Hilo has to rush into the hospital where he will need surgery. Nico insisted on coming with him, and we find out that it was through roughhousing. Like Rue's like, hey, you put your hand over my mouth, and Nico was like, we were playing, you know, so it was like it was a problem.
But also I kind of like wondered too, it was like, this sounds kind of sinister when you read about it. Like he put his hand over his mouth to make him swallow it. Like, ew, that's a little sinister.
I know, it's very
child to do.
But they're like, it happens sometimes with little kids. They roughhouse, especially when you teach them that Jade is a weapon. It's very much like gun going off in the house. But
yeah.
Hilo's at the hospital where Rue will need surgery. It's the day Zapunyo is supposed to be assassinated, and we find out he changed the meeting room, which, like, duh, that's such an easy thing to have happen on the day of. But they had hidden the Jade in the room they were supposed to be meeting him in, and now they can't use it. Hilo decides to call it off, and Shay is like, but we'll blow Andon's hard-earned cover if he does not show up. And Hilo's like, I literally do not care. We're not doing this. The surgery goes well, but they find out that Rue didn't have any reaction to the Jade, meaning he is a stone eye. Nico hears about this, and he promises to be a good big brother.
Well, because and this is again a situation where it's like we're putting too much pressure on this child, and in multiple ways, because now we kind of find out like this is more of the importance of Nico, where it's like he is going to definitely now be the one that is Hilo's heir.
Yeah, he's the
And
heir.
so there's this pressure on him for that. And then there's this extra pressure because Hilo's like, you have to take care of him. Like,
Yeah.
you cannot let people beat the shit out of him.
He's
going to have a harder life, and you need to take care of him.
He will always be a target now.
Mhm.
Wen finds out about Rue and admits to herself that that's why she wanted Nico there, which also sucks for Nico,
Yeah.
where it's like, I didn't want this baby. I wanted an heir apparent just in case I had made a stone eye.
Mhm.
She also finds out about Zapunyo, and she's like, Hilo, you promised to kill him. And he's like, we just need more time. It'll happen. You just need to wait. She hangs up and she gets Shay on the phone, and she's like, you need to send me in. And Shay's like, I can't do that. Hilo would die. He would be so mad at me.
Mhm.
You have no idea. And she's like, no, I'm a spy. This is what I'm here for. I can do this. And don't you want Zapunyo dead just as much as I do? And so she's like, okay. And she's like, but you know, this will ruin your marriage probably. Like, we can't hide this from Hilo once he finds out. And she's like, yeah, but like, this will be done. Like, I have to do this. And she's
feeling a lot of like guilt about Ken's
Mhm.
death and everything. She's like, I need to avenge my brother. Like, I'm capable of doing this. I want to do this. I've been doing this for a long time, and I need to take the risk in order to try and avenge him.
And so she also kind of plays on like Shay being like, remember how like much you had to do with Morrow and like how much you had to sacrifice, and like, I need to do this. And so Shay decides to send her in, and she's like, the pillar like is my rock, but like, I have to do this right now. So Andon, Wen, and Ron go into the interview. They are patted down, and Wen is super nervous, fiddling with a fountain pen, which I was like, well, that has to be where the jade is.
Yeah.
They go inside, and Andon is being nice to Zapunyo, who admits he looked into the newspaper reporter. It's definitely not Andon. And I was like, you guys didn't think you could get a picture of some reporter? Like, come on. But he's like, well, you can't be here to kill me. So I was just curious as to why. And Andon is like, we are here to kill you. Funniest, like,
where it's like he
leans.
It says like he leans in and he's like, we are
here to kill you. And then he like jumps to strangle Zapunyo. Wen pulls out the jade from the fake fountain pen and gets it to Ron, who kills the other men. She has to hit the floor and stay down, and like almost gets hit. It's very scary. They get away with the help of paid off police officers in a car and run to Andon's old workplace to change and get out of the country. They're about to change when a gang led by Skinny Reams walks in, that old Skinny Reams, and then Carson, you'll hear, my father will hear about this, is there with them to beat Andon up.
He's like, thought that you could get away. Remember me?
Remember me?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, Draco Malfoy in the
Not
flesh.
you.
Shay is waiting to hear from Andon, but he isn't calling. She's freaking out in bed. She's terrified. We cut back to Andon, who's trying to call the docs, but no one answers. And then Carson starts beating Andon up, saying they're going to kill them all. Skinny tells them that he was tipped off by the police who helped them. He's like, the police have been with us for much longer. We are going to take you down. Ron tries to reach for Green and get it along with get it to like him or Andon, but they tie up Andon and Wen.
Well, the thing is, like, Andon is trying to get it to Ron,
right?
Not considering that he could use it in this moment, because like I mentioned in our last episode, I'm just trying to figure out what is going to be the situation that Andon finally is like, I will use the jade. We get there, but
yeah,
it's not this moment where it's a little frustrating where you're like, use the jade, Andon, use the jade.
Well, and so he tries to get it to him, but he also tries to reason with Skinny, being like, hey, you were a secondhand man, we've worked together, why would you do this? You need to calm down, you know. And he's like, we always helped out Boss Cromner. And Skinny's like, that's why I want to kill you. Like, I don't like the Kekanese people. I don't like that you brought Jade in. You're the reason.
I think that this is the cause of all of our problems.
And he's like, I think like Boss Cromner is no longer helpful. He trusted you guys, and then all of this went down. Like, because we find out that all of the crews are fighting, and like Boss Cromner was taken out. And so he ends up killing Ron with a Guro. It's pretty bad. And then Carson wants to keep Wen.
Yeah, I got nervous at that point. Where
and
I was like, please, no.
I was like, please don't do this to me. I was really glad that Fonda Lee did it.
Yeah, I was so nervous.
But Wen does her best, like, do you know who I am? And they don't really care, because
they're like, we
really
don't care who you are.
Keikon.
And they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know the importance of her and don't care.
Yeah. And they're like, why would we care about Keikon? It's like very racist to believe that like a big, huge time, like crime lord in another country wouldn't care about you, but that's just me. They put that bag over her head, and Andon is watching her die, and he's freaking out, and she goes still, and they go to kill Andon. Shay is praying to the gods, calling the docks and doing anything she can to get to Andon. Then all of a sudden, Andon hears movement and there's reinforcement there. The crew runs. 3 green bones are there saying they took too long, so that they came to check on them. Andon tries to resuscitate Wen, but it isn't working. He grabs Ron's gloves and uses the jade to squeeze her heart, and she starts breathing again, and they cry together.
Channeling has always been his strongest thing, because remember, he was the one that killed all those mice so easily and everything. So now he is able to use it for healing. This was a beautiful moment, honestly.
This was a moment. And then they like started crying together and
hugging.
Oh,
they're like,
so, yeah, like she's in his lap and they're like comforting each other. It's really sad.
And honestly, to me, like the way that they're in this moment, it's like honestly out of fear of Hilo is what has them most upset, because they're both like, what would Hilo have done if you died? Thank God you're alive, because what would Hilo have done if you died? And that's why they're crying so much. I feel like there's honestly less concern, it seems like, from both of them about Wen's life. It's more how Hilo would react.
Yep. And so Shay takes a call and Andon tells her what happens. She goes to Hilo, who's doing a game with Nico about jade sensitivity, and he is winning, which sucks. She tells Nico to leave, and she admits that Sapunyo is dead. She tells him about Ron and Wen and Andon. And then she almost like blacks out and she's like, I don't even know what I told him. Like something just happened. I said something. And then all of a sudden he starts attacking her. It's a huge fight in the training room. Like
it's really bad.
Getting torn down. She's trying to like get him away from her in any way she can. And he's like screaming like, how could you? How could you? She's able to stop him and he's about to keep going when Rue and Nico comes in. He screams at them and
he's like, get out.
Rue runs crying and Nico goes to Shay and she gets him to leave. Hilo is kind of like burnt out in this moment and he slides down to the ground and he's like, do you remember way back when this all started and you asked if I trusted you? And she's like, yeah, you said you didn't have a choice. And he's like, well, now I knew you didn't want to be in the clan. I knew you didn't want to be you didn't want me as a brother, and now you are free and you aren't my weatherman. Go do whatever you want. And Shay's like, that won't work. We need each other. I earned my place here. I've done just as much as you. And like, I've always worked on behalf of the clan, even though I went against you. I never went against the clan. And he's like, well, now you sound just like Doru. And he's like, obviously trying to hurt her. And he says that he let the clan claim everything from him, but not his wife. And she's like, well, the thing is Wen is green. She's greener than anyone I've ever met. And we owe her everything. Like she has done so much for this clan behind the scenes because she wanted to. And she's like, hate me, but you need Wen, you need Andon, and you need me. My oaths are everything to me. And like, this is how it has to be. And it's like, and they're kind of just sitting there in that moment. It's like, it's a very...
And you respect Shay so much for what she says in this moment because she handles it so well.
And she made a hard choice. And like, that's the thing is like, Hilo wants to control the whole situation. And Shay was like, this had to have happened. Like, and I do think that that's...
And honestly, Shay has at times felt like she's wanted an out. And here she's presented with one and she doesn't take it.
Well, and also if you think about it, like Shay has given up everything. Like Shay gave up like her love life. She gave up her wanting to be free of the clan. She gave up the ability to even like think about wanting to have children. Like she gave all of that up. And like now he's sitting here and he's like, well, the clan took everything from me. They can't take my wife. And she's just sitting there like, I did give up everything. Like this was part of what it is to be a clan member. And like, this is where we're at. So like, I do find this very powerful where it comes to like Hilo's worst qualities and Shay's strongest qualities coming forward. So then we cut to Shay being in the temple and then Ike comes in and she's like, you're a security risk. You come here every time at the same time every day. And Shay's like, okay, are you just here to gloat? Cause like, I don't really care right now. This scene was less effective. It was effective in many ways, but it was ineffective in many ways to me.
It's kind of just like a full circle moment that we're getting here. Where
it's mirroring the last book.
Yes, it's mirroring the last book. And it's a situation where Maarta comes in and is like, here's the thing. All of these moves you've been making, I've been making moves too. And now we have more allies because you didn't consider that maybe I would have had Zapunya's people like under control and I would have asked them to do these things. And now I've got all these Utanians as allies too, blah, 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 blah. And you think that the No Peak clan is going to be powerful? Well, we're still going to win. It's just like, shut up, Maarta. Like,
it just doesn't it's a very weird thing where like Maarta is a frustrating character because she is supposed to be the big bad, but it like in this section, Shay is almost as sick of it as we are because she's sitting there being like, this is all just a put on, and you're just here to like because you don't like me.
It's like the evil villain monologue, honestly, where it's just like, okay, and where's the escape route that we can get out of this?
Yeah, like I just don't want to have this conversation with you because like you find out that like I wanted the passage of the Refugee Act because she's going to be sponsoring refugees, and so there will be an influx on like loyalists to the mountain. So they're still more powerful than Shay and the No Peak, and because like the war is kind of ending, so like Espinia isn't in as much control, but like Shay's still like,
so you're gonna have these people that they referred to as like half green.
Yeah.
And they're going to be mountain loyalists.
And Shay is still like, okay, so you're powerful here, but you're not powerful to the world. Like you're still pretty much like only powerful where you wanted to be powerful. And you're not thinking of the long game either. Like you're just as fallible as we are. And that's like the most powerful point of this section where like Shay in the last time was like, oh my gosh, I is so Machiavellian and she knows exactly what's happening. And this one, she's just kind of like, I'm exhausted. This is just the worst. And so like I now has mountain loyalists and she now has all of Zapuño's territory that she took over. And Shay realizes that I also has made a ton of mistakes in doing that. She's like, oh my God, you've made so many mistakes. And she's like, do you actually think you can control all these Baruchans who are coming in? Like they're thugs who don't believe in Aiese, and you are still that person who like got all these new greens, Jade and Kcon, and it bit you in the butt then. And it like all you did was get them addicted to shine. It wasn't useful, and you lost the majority of interest in a huge company of yours. You couldn't just pass it along to the next guy. You had to trust Ugatanians, like, and you had to name an error when you didn't want to. Like she thinks this on the inside, but she's like, you had to name an error when you didn't want to. You're just as much of a failure. And she's like, you're just like me. You can just spin a loss to make it seem like a win. But she pretty much just says like, all she says to I is like, the Baruchans won't be controlled and everything else is internal. So I'm like, no, say all of this because you're not wrong. And I is super volatile. She's just a little bit better at hiding it. And I is kind of like, well, we still need an armistice because like, even though the outside is less of a threat, like they still want our community and our goods. And like, you need to keep everything in check. You need to keep Hilo in check, and no green bone is safe. And Shay is like, yeah, even you. And so Shay is like, look, we're still at war. It's a different type of war. That's all that's happening. And leaves. Like she just pieces out.
Yeah. These chapters are where I really appreciated Shay a lot more.
Yeah.
Because it's like, she's being very effective.
Right. I feel like we've seen a little bit of Shay's pity party throughout these books. And like, she does come out strong at the end of it usually. So that's helpful. Andon is back in Kcon. He's happy to be here. And he's like, wow, it's so weird to see Jade in control and just out in the open. He sees June and Lot, boyfriend. And then
new boyfriend.
And then he goes up to Hilo. We find out that Wen was smuggled out of Espinia after all of the struggles. She's now half paralyzed. And we also know that Andon got to say goodbye to Corey at Ron's funeral. Hilo talks to Andon and asks how Wen could go against him and how Andon could. And Andon's like, this isn't really about you.
Right.
This is about so much. And he's like, it's hard not to be the person that your family expects you to be, but like, that's sometimes who you are. And you just have to like understand that sometimes and understand that we're not asking you for your forgiveness, just your understanding. So Andon had therapy before he returned.
I think it's just one of those things where Andon has experienced so much growth through his like his experiences and what he's been forced to do, and Hilo has not had to do that.
Nope.
So
Hilo has just been put in power and didn't have to grow. So he does tell Hilo that he will be wearing Jade now, but he's going into a biomedical engineering program to learn how to heal people with it. And he will not let Jade let him be a killer, but he will use it in a more effective way. But also this does put him back on the table to be a mountain target. He will be wearing Jade again. And he's like, I will be going to school. Thank you so much for helping me get in. But like, I don't need the
like,
clan's money.
I don't need you to pay for it.
Hilo's like, this isn't about the money, you idiot. You haven't learned
Like,
enough.
I do not care about the money.
Right. And so then he introduces Andon to the children. And then the epilogue. Barrow! He is working at the Double Double now, just doing work, and he's in a recovery program for Jade. He gets a handout and goes away from the commercial district to a like smaller, like more chillax area.
Mm-hmm.
There are card players who are there, and they're talking about how the Greenbone clan uses Jade as a tool for the oppressed. It's a tool for the oppressors. Mm-hmm. And it goes with Aspenians being like military and merchant control, and Ugatanians being aristocracy. And Jade is going out into the world, and it will make everyone worse. And they want a revolution and to get Jade in the hands of the people. And Barrow's like, I don't want any Jade, but a revolution sounds good. Bow, 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 bow. And then he does finger guns, and it's the end of the book.
I wish Barrow had just died. Moot, you idiot.
Moot, you had one job and you messed it up.
Barrow's kind of like that. I don't want to say Jiminy Cricket, but he's like that character like that you see throughout the books that's like, follow me along on this story. It's like, damn it, why do you keep coming back?
I just don't care about you. So yeah, that's the end of book 2. Next week we will be back to discuss the characters, the themes,
characters and themes,
and our thoughts on it. And I think we both really liked it.
Yeah, I love
it. Really
honestly, like I had moments like at the beginning where I was like, I'm a little nervous, but I think it's just one of those things that Fonda Lee does such an effective job of kind of throwing you for a loop and also connecting the dots between things that you need to really pay attention and also just trust in her writing, because she has this planned out so well and it's just so well done. And it's just a really great series.
It really, really is. I love it so much. And yeah, guys, I can't wait to talk more about it. But with that said, make sure that you're voting in our Indie Mission. Indie Mission is something, if you're new to the podcast, we do in between each series. We cover a book by an indie author. We do something similar to what we do here, where we cover the plot, the characters, and sometimes we have the authors on for an interview. We've had it 3 for 3, so let's hope we keep going on that.
If we're able to get them, we really, really want to.
Love having them on, because like it's so good to read these books. So make sure you're going onto ourpod.com, where we will have listed all of the contenders, plus a couple of the honorable mentions, because of how many
we had a lot of suggestions this time.
Have so many suggestions, so we only chose 24 titles. We don't
Just
know what they
one
are
of those
yet.
Little randomizer things.
Yeah, we're using a randomizer to pick. So we are just like letting that happen. We're doing 24 different ones. We have some honorable mentions, but read through these books, see if you like any, go out and buy them. It really helps indie authors, like more than like traditional publishing. Like indie authors are so valued and we love highlighting them. We've highlighted a couple different authors like in these bonus episodes we've been doing. So make sure you're looking into that and vote with us to see which book we will be covering after Jade Legacy. We do it this early because Laura and I need to go buy the books.
We have to get the book
to do all the voting.
Like we have to read it too. Like we mentioned, we were kind of complaining a little earlier. Like we have all this reading to do for the podcast. This will be another book we will be reading for the podcast. Exactly. So we need to have enough time to read it.
Yes. So we are voting right now. So make sure you're participating in that. Share it with people, because like so many people don't understand how amazing indie publishing is until you learn more about it. And then
the thing is too, like people need to understand, like with indie books, they sometimes have a lot more liberty to like bring up certain themes or plot lines in their writing that they might not have if they were traditionally published. So you do see sometimes more creative things come about. And also it's just I think this contest, it's not really a contest. I think these indie intermissions are just a great way to learn about different works that you wouldn't see all the time, and to support authors who are doing this a lot of times as like a second job or trying to pursue a new career in writing. And I think we should definitely support people in their passions.
Yep. So we really believe in our indie mission. We love it so much. And we hope that you join us along with the next book. And also, if you could rate, review, and subscribe us. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is a great way to get other people to the podcast. I know we've had like a couple of people join in for Fonda Lee's work, and I hope you like the format of this. we enjoy doing this. It's been a ton of fun, and just rating, reviewing, and subscribing helps us do that. You could also follow us at OWWR Pod on Instagram, on Twitter, on Threads, which I signed up for. We'll see if it works. And then
with the battle of there's a Game of Thrones. There's also a game of social medias at the moment where it's like which will survive.
But we also have our link tree. So like look up what we have, because we also have a Patreon that you could sign up for $3 a month. That just helps with like running our overall overhead costs. Any little bit helps. We have $3, $5, and $10. $10 lets you pick a book that we get to read, or one of us gets to read and review. So give us even more homework and some bonus episodes. Last month we didn't have one because we did a Country Bears watch along
party.
And it was a ton of fun, so much fun. And, you know, we've done other things like Law & Order SVU reviews or Kissing the Coronavirus reviews. Yeah. And so you can help us pick our next bonus episode that we'll do this month. So we just hope you guys follow along, join in any way you can. We just hope you enjoy
and we
this
appreciate
podcast.
You listening and sharing.
Yes.
This means a lot. And we're glad that you're following along and supporting us in our little indie podcasting journey.
So join us next week as we do a deep dive into the themes and characters of Jade War.
Jade War.
And then we're going to do finger guns and end. Bye.
Bye.